So I'd like to tell you a story where greed overcomes common sense, where greed inspires an entire community to lose incredible amounts of money on the worst football trade ever. Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. Please like and comment on the video below. That will allow me to produce better quality videos and more of them in the future. If you're interested in learning to trade successfully on sports, then why not visit the BetAngel Academy, where we have more detailed videos. So let me show you a way of making unlimited amounts of cash really quickly on football. You can see we're looking at the first goal scorer market here between Manchester United and Leicester. 36,000 has been matched, which is a surprise because look over here. You've got the book at 102%. So if I lay the entire book at 102, you can see that my predicted profit is going to be a few quid guaranteed, apart from these ones where I would obviously make a bit more money. So if I place that position into the market, so you can see here I've got a profit regardless of whoever the first goal scorer is within this match. I can't possibly lose. Or can I? So if you're thinking about going into a market and doing this on the first goal scorer market, stop! Don't do it. It's a trap. It's a trick. I've tricked you. This market will result in a loss for me. I will lose money by doing this, and that's why you should not do it. It's a false market. Why is it a false market? Well, if you look at the number of selections within this particular market, you'll notice there are a very large number of selections. And of course, the first goal scorer is going to come out of the 22 or so people that play in that particular match. What's happened in the first goal scorer market is they've listed everybody that could possibly score that goal, some of which are never going to score, others are unlikely, and some of them will not even play. And if they don't play, those bets are void. So the percentage at the top of the screen is not an accurate reflection of what's going on within the market. So yeah, don't do it. And if you did it, you could stand to lose enormous amounts of money. But worse than that, you can see that when I put that position through the market, my account balance is unaffected. And the problem that you have with that means that you can do it again, which means you'll lose more money, and you could do it again, which means you'll lose even more money, and again, and again, and again. And in fact, you could end up losing an unlimited amount of money if you do this, as long as people are sat on the other side of the market willing to let you take a position against them, which of course they're bound to if you're doing something as stupid as this. Now you're sort of thinking, well, who would do something as stupid as that? But it has happened, and this describes the worst football trade ever. Hilariously, it occurred on the Money Saving Expert forum, which I think they should have changed to Money Losing Expert after this particular episode. It was way back in 2007, February 2007, that this occurred. But what happened was somebody stumbled upon this particular strategy. They looked at the market, they figured out that in fact the lay side should be only ever so slightly above 100%, and when they walked into the market it was at 140%. So they thought, ooh, hold on a second, if I lay everything at 140%, I will make 40% profit on my stake. So they did that, and then lo and behold, their account balance was still intact, so they just did it again and again and again, and they got a massive shovel and dug the biggest hole you've ever seen on a market. But worse than that was what happened on the Money Saving Expert forum. Rather appropriately, the first guy to spot the opportunity was a guy called Cheeky. He popped up and he sort of said, call me a fool. Yes, I think we can call you a fool. But I've just laid the entire field here for 140%, and I'm going to get loads of free money. And as soon as he did that, loads of other people piled in and started doing the same thing, and this little massive activity surged into the market, laying consistently above 100%, because of course there was no way that they could lose. Or was there? Of course there was. If you read the rules, it says in there that the bets will be void on players that do not start the match. And that means that 140% was never ever 140%, it was much, much smaller. And it took until 33 posts on the thread for somebody to sort of say, oh, if only it were that easy. And of course he got shouted down because everybody was making unbelievable amounts of money and none of it was getting taken out of their account. They were just piling in as much money as they possibly could into this market. So when somebody popped up and said, oh, bets will be void, and therefore you've got a bit of an issue here, the penny still didn't really drop. And people, and also somebody pointed out that you could actually rack up a liability that far exceeded any of the money in your account. But even then, people were coming back and trying to defend the original poster and the strategy itself. They were just sort of saying, well, Betfair wouldn't allow you to run up a liability bigger than your account balance. But yes, they will. The great thing about exchanges is you can do all sorts of weird and wonderful things. There are thousands of strategies that you can deploy. Some of them are really odd, but necessarily, if you get a false market, nobody's going to stop you from doing that. You bet at your own risk. Betfair will not restrict you. They will not limit the size of your bet. If you want to take money in a market, you take money in the market at your own risk. You have no redress. So as a consequence, when you're betting into a false market, you could end up with a liability far in excess of anything that you've got in your account. By post 67, it really began to sink in that they'd made an absolutely terrible mistake. And then I think it was post 70, 73 or somewhere around there, in the early 70s, the penny absolutely, totally dropped with a crushing reality. And then people realised that what they'd actually done is racked up an absolutely stupendous liability. We're not talking a couple £100 here. Some people had run up tens of thousands of pounds worth of losses. But of course those losses would only be dependent upon what the team sheet was, which player was in or out and stuff like that. So when the team sheet was announced, of course, everybody realised they were really, really in serious trouble there, because Thierry Henry, who was going to be a big part and a big chunk of the market, was not playing. So yeah, then everything descended into chaos. People were trying to find ways of getting out, but of course you can't. If you've got yourself into such a massive hole at huge margin, the margin isn't going to be there on the other side of the book. The person who took the money off of you in one direction isn't going to turn around and go, oh, poor soul, let me give you that money back. It's not going to happen. So they realised that they're in a really serious problem at that particular moment in time. So they closed the thread to stop people from participating. It opened a new thread to discuss how they were going to try and get things, how they were going to try and sort the whole position out. But of course there was nothing they could do. It was too late, especially when the team sheet is announced and the match starts. Your opportunity's gone. It's just a disaster from that particular point in time. So it then descended into this situation of people saying just how serious their positions were, and then resorting to either looking at ways to remove all of their funds from Betfair before Betfair had the chance to debit it from them, or going to the FSA or regulatory bodies to try and reverse the position, or a blame game erupted basically at that particular point. It was a sad sight to see. Now, I actually wasn't on this market, so I didn't pick up on this until after it happened. And somebody pointed me to the thread, and I started reading it. I was thinking, oh no, it's like, how could people be so stupid? But the fact is, it still continues today. Not quite on that scale, because that was spectacular and probably never to be repeated. But you do see false markets all the time, and you see people betting into false markets all of the time. And they're legitimate market. They're not put up to try and trap people. It's just that there are some markets where runners are going to be added or removed, and there's not a great deal that you can do about that. But probably the best example is the first goal scorer market, because it's something that repeats every match and you can see it all in its full glory, for want of a better word. But anyhow, if you want to know how to lose enormous amounts of money very, very quickly, that's the way to do it. But I suggest that the way that you overcome these sort of tendencies to make absolutely horrific mistakes is read the rules. If you haven't participated in the market before, do it tentatively, understand all of the little situations that could occur, read the rules, make sure that you understand what the likely payoff is, and then you can proceed safely. But if you've never traded a market before, just dabble in it before going in all guns blazing. But anyhow, I thought that it would be interesting to reprise that. I don't think it's been covered for many years. And that's how you can perform the worst football trade ever.